Hi listeners, Spike the Vet again, and Rosie's doing a sterling job getting some of my older whole box episodes back out, and there's one that is coming out now, and actually thanks to the guys at Red Mills, we are turning an old hold box into my new feed room, and it is a whole box episode which we did with Louise from Red Mills. The thing that really caught my eye, we talk about a few things, but the one thing that I really was thinking about, having done a few vettings in the last month or so, was feeding the new horse. You know, what you do when you bring a new horse into the yards, whether it's, you know, come to you on loan, whether it's just a new horse that you've purchased, and where do you start with your feeding program? And I knew I'd done something about this, and I knew I'd had some really good input from Louise about it. So Rosie's done a great job. We've got another one out. We're going to re-release it back in my feed room, and I hope people find it really relevant and hopefully really useful. So here you go, guys. Another feed room episode. We've got more whole box coming out soon, and do keep giving me some feedback. Keep telling me what you want to hear, any subject matter, and we'll be back out in the spring and can't wait for the eventing season to get going.
Listeners, welcome again. And I mean, it is terribly sad, dreadfully sad. It's our last in our mini-series. It's our fourth episode with the wonderful Louise Jones from Red Mills that once again I have persuaded to come and join us.
No, I'm gutted it's the last one. Hopefully we'll get to do more in the future, Spike.
Well, come on. Well, for starters, you need to go back and tell the powers that be at Red Mills that we need more of this. And listeners, you need to inundate me with further questions and queries and anything that we can talk about, because I learn loads when we do these recordings, and it's great to speak to Louise about these things. So come on, we're going to make this happen. We're going to have we'll have a third mini series. It'll be brilliant. This is our last one, and I was thinking about this because today I've been out vetting another horse for someone to buy, and it all went well, and they purchased their new horse. I do get asked, you know, so what am I going to feed it? You know, what do I do when I feed it when I get home? You know, do I just put it on what I've got, or do I have to go out and buy what they've been on before, or what do you do? Louise, what do we do?
Well, look, getting a new horse, always exciting, and always a little bit kind of, you know, nerve-wracking as well, in that, you know, you've got a new animal on the premises. But I think at the very start, you hit it on the head. People go out, they vet their horses, they ride them, and the same level of detail kind of should be given to nutrition. So we should be asking those questions before we purchase the horse and learning as much about their nutritional history as we can. So, you know, are they out of grass full time? Are they being fed conserved forage? What hard feed are they getting? How much are they getting? What supplements are they getting? Have they had issues like, do they dislike a cube and will only eat a mix? Or if you feed them something, you know, like a chaff, do they have an issue with that? So it's about getting as much history and insight as to what is currently being done, and that will make that transition 100% easier, because you'll have a baseline to go from, and you'll be able to work off that and adjust accordingly given the new circumstances of the horse in your yard, if that has changed things for them.
And listeners, like I can't stress how badly this could go wrong if people don't put active thought into this process. You know, so I do loads of vettings, and you know, however many a year, and you know, for me the biggest issue and that biggest question is suitability, but also that can be that initial, you know, the first few weeks, first few months of buying a new horse and developing that new partnership is just so key.
Yeah.
And
it can so easily go wrong.
Yeah, couldn't it just? Like, get the diet wrong, affect temperament, affect this, affect that, have some effect on the intestinal tract, whether that be the stomach, whether that be the hindgut, you know, all those sort of things. You know, like this could be something that could get, really serious consequences. But also,
you buy a new horse, you bring it home, you change things, and within a week it's colicking, and you're faced with a massive vet bill because you've done something that is not in tune with how they have been fed. So it really is vital that you get that history and a plan in place prior to you purchasing that horse.
Yeah, it's just not the colic. It's not even just the colic. It's the temperament as well. Like, you know, you bring it back, you put it on the wrong feed, and you can't ride one side of it. Sounds like we're still talking offhand about it, guys. But like, that's the real world. Like, it happens.
Yeah,
You know, like
exactly.
buy a new horse, you bring it home, and you change everything: the training, the surface, the farrier, the physio, and and the one thing that these things that you can have an influence on is food, and and I think that input from the nutritionist is so important. So
Yeah, you can
that's
control it, and I think so. If you can find out what the horse's sort of diet has been up until obviously you purchasing them, so ask about their forage, ask about their management. Are they out of grass? Are they fed conserved forage? If it's possible, and it's not always possible, but if it's possible, get some of the forage that they're being fed at their current owners, purchase it and bring it to your yard so that you can do that transition onto your forage slowly. Because we know that even something as simple as changing forage sources can have a big impact on gastrointestinal health. So, buying a few bales of hay or, a couple of bales of haylage and just sort of gradually doing that change can make a big, big difference. Equally, think about the hard feed. And if you can, again, for the first few days or first week that you've got the horse there, if you can keep them on the same base diet as in hard feed, that probably is sensible from a gastrointestinal point of view. You also obviously have to just take into account their workload. If they've been working quite hard and you're going to give them a relatively easy week when they first arrive, you're going to have to maybe reduce the amount that you're feeding them. But try and maybe stay on that same food and then gradually transition. I think.
In practical terms, Louise, sorry to interrupt, but what does that look like? If you're going to buy a couple of, let's say they're on a feed, and they want a particular balancer, and do you, you're going to buy a couple of bags of that, and a bag of the balancer, and you start on that. But how do you is it, do you go, rather than a scoop of the old feed, is it half a scoop of the old feed and half a scoop of the new feed, or how does that look when you say that you gradually transfer?
So I usually say that you want to gradually transfer between sort of 4 to 7 days. So you can start by replacing a small proportion of their current feed with your new feed. Like a quarter is a good, that would give you a 4-day transition. Replace a quarter, and then the next day another quarter, the next day another quarter, and the final day you're completely on your new food. I tend to say that 4 days is the minimum time. If I'm honest, I'd prefer it up at the sort of 7 to 10 days. So in that case, you'd be replacing an eighth, an eighth, and an eighth. It is a bit of a faff. It's annoying to have to do it when you've got a feed room with multiple bags of feed. But in terms of your horse's health, it is much better to do it gradually. And it's only 10 days, and just transition it slowly. So some people will say that they'll replace the breakfast but not the midday and the evening meal. They'll do it like that. Others will replace a proportion of each meal with the new feed. So it just depends a little bit on what's practical in your circumstances.
Yeah, no, I think but it's nice to be able to sort of drill that down into what is the real practicalities of it, because as you say, often the advice is, I'll just gradually change over, but what does that look like to people to have to work out every day? And I love that bit of advice about trying to sort of, I love the idea of turning up to pick up your new horse and going, can I have a bag of, can I have a bale of your hay as well to take with you? If you've got a bag of feed, that'd be nice. What about the rug and the saddle? It was,
but it can make a massive difference. Forage is 60, 50-60% of your horse's diet, and we're all really good at changing the hard feed slowly, and we forget about the forage. So it can make a really big difference. So be a little bit cheeky and ask for a bale of hay or some haylage, and just gradually do it if you can. It's not always possible. I appreciate that, but yeah.
Well, with the price of horses at the moment, I suspect they forked out thousands to buy the horse. So a bale of hay wouldn't seem like a bad thing to just sweeten the deal. So Yeah, I think that's all. That I think that's the basis of the advice, isn't it? But I mean, but it's as with so many things, isn't it? It's having a conscious thought about it, isn't it? I'm
It
consciously
is.
thinking about what I'm going to feed my new horse and how I'm going to bring it into its new diet and how I'm going to bring it into its new environment and its new life. So
And I think there are cases where they're rare, I would say, in the sort of people that we're speaking to, but there are cases where they buy horses and you don't know what they're being fed, or you don't have a clear understanding or history of them. And in those cases, back to the temperament issue, Spike, I would always say you're better off starting on a feed that is low starch, very much based around the slow release energy sources. So something like our horse care range, where it's not going to be very cereal based. It's going to be low starch. That's going to be a better option. It's always easier to step up once you get to know the horse and you've got your confidence as a partnership. But stepping back from potentially a bad experience is a lot harder. So I would always say err on the side of caution and maybe look at those sort of lower starch feeds. As I say, the horse care range is a great one. And actually the horse care range also contains the care package. So that includes things like yeast and prebiotics. So that can be very useful when your horse is going from one environment to another, just to help the gut adjust to the changes in management and routine and different diets. So there's some beneficial ingredients in that range as well that can just help the horse to adjust to the stress, of moving yards. So yeah, start safely and build it up is a good option if you're not sure what they've been fed up until you got them.
Oh, right. So basically, I'm going to have to just advise any horse that I vet successfully to listen to this podcast, because this is a situation where we can try and avoid, bad things happening, or, that first, as we were saying, those first few weeks, that first month or so, to, developing that new relationship is just so key when you're buying a horse, and that's at every level, guys. Like that's it, whether that be grassroots eventing up to the highest level, it can quite quickly go wrong, if you don't have a conscious thought and, that attention to detail about what that feed is and what that, particularly the forage is so key, so important. So
the first podcast that we did, Spike, you mentioned about monitoring things like body condition, top line, that sort of thing. With the new horse, again, that's absolutely critical, because you are going to have to adjust their diets depending on what you're doing, depending on how they're coping in the environment. So weighing them, using a weigh tape regularly, monitoring their top line, that's going to help you to very quickly adjust their diet to suit their needs, rather than it getting to a point where you're thinking, God, this is too lean, or it's lost a lot of top line.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Benchmark exactly what you've got when you've got your new horse, because, if you're, in a month's time, if your top line's reducing and your overall weight is reducing, then you can start making those adjustments, quite quickly, really. So no, that's really applicable, isn't it? And I think that's something that we talk about a lot. It sounds like a broken record on these podcasts, but benchmarking what you've got, really asking that question about what I'm trying to achieve. But yeah, that's really applicable to this situation. Buying a new horse, which is full of excitement and full of hope and expectation of what the future might bring. But calm it down. Work out what's been done before. Try not to change things. There's so many changes going on, and if we can try and keep as many things consistent as possible, then that's a really, really useful thing to be able to do. Oh, Louise, this is the fourth and final one of our little mini series. Enjoyed it so much. Thank you so much for so much from Red Mills for their ongoing support. Thank you, Louise, for you're just so full of really. So full of amazing information, but also really practical and useful advice for people as well, which I think is such a great balance. And listeners, I really hope you all appreciated that. Louise, you are a star. I look forward to being able to do this again with you in the not too distant future. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed myself. Lovely to chat to you again, Spike. And I hope all your listeners have glean some little pieces of information that will help them. So, and we're always here if they need to contact anybody and they want to speak to a nutritionist. They can just contact us through the website.
Louise, you're amazing. Red Mills, you're still always amazing. Thank you for your support. And listeners, we'll be back again soon. Keep chucking out ideas. I'll keep trying to think of new things and new ideas to kind of bring to the whole box so that we can keep, just finding some sort of different aspects of the veterinary world to bring you and how that interlinks with eventing and the professional horse sports. So hope you've all enjoyed it. It's been a brilliant series. Really enjoyed it myself, and we'll be back soon.